not, but it goes the other way.
Libas.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week.
A little bit older than you.
I'm not touching this topic. I'm not touching it.
Yeah. Mediocre, mid-table, rabble.
So I just want to be able to talk as much
If you play a night game, he has to turn the bloodlines on.
No one would have believed that he would keep his job for as long as he had.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to episode 413 of the Wednesday Week. This week, titled To Be Continued. Tonight, I'm joined by Simon, Hollie, and John to discuss all the goings on for the last week at Sheffield Wednesday. How are we doing, everyone? All good?
Yeah, good. Wait for Euros now, aren't we?
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, Euros now. I think England are playing tonight, but sort of till someone put on the podcast WhatsApp, I did not have a clue. So nothing, not interested, to be honest. Sheffield Wednesday, that's all we're about, aren't we? So let's get straight into it. So we've seen this week, Friday, there was another contract announcement. They love these on a Friday. Danny Rule was last week. And then we've had the captain and vice-captain, Barry Bannon and Liam Palmer, both agreeing new deals. And as customary for Sheffield Wednesday, they don't tell you the length. So, Hollie, ladies first, I'm going to go with you. Expected? Happy? What's your thoughts on that news?
Do you know what? For the first time, I thought it wasn't expected. I thought there was a chance that they were both going to go. And I think both of them going would have been probably, it would have been a big mistake, I think. But and I dare say neither of them are going to play the majority of next season. But I think it gives us a bit of stability to keep both of them. I'm happy with that.
Happy. John, how about you? Were you happy with the news that obviously Bannon and Palmer have got another, well, at least 12 months?
Yeah, I think it's one of those. You could say, are the best days behind them? Yeah, probably. But can they still offer something for the team? Again, probably yeah. But even if it's as much as being an influence, because they've both been there a long time, the presence of those two in a dressing room is probably very beneficial to any team that we're trying to build this next upcoming season. So they are two, very influential players at Sheffield Wednesday. So, like, I agree with Hollie. I don't know quite how much they'll play again next season, depending on remit. If it is a top 10 finish we're targeting, then perhaps we won't see as much of them as in previous years. But I'm sure the terms of the contracts should be fairly decent, and I would expect that they'll only have been maybe a 1-year deal with an option of a second or something like that in those realms. Yeah, I think we need better, but I understand bringing them back, and I think they'll have a part to play in some way.
What I will say is, if I were them, I probably would have left, because I think we had that promotion season that were absolutely wild, and then we had this season that somehow topped last season. And I think for both of them as a legacy, wouldn't you just go, I've done it now? I probably would have gone. But don't listen to me if you are listening, boys. It's too late. You signed it, so.
Simon, what's your thoughts on obviously that we've just been talking about Palmer and Bannon?
Well, I think Steve, if he's listening, for a start, that I think one of you or both of you said that Palmer will play a bit part next season. My God, Steve will be. If he's not messaging now, he'll be. If he's running, he'll be sort of falling over stones and trying to get back quickly so he can chastise you all. I personally felt it was a given that they both sign. I think Danny Rule has sort of set in that he wants a part established team of what we'd already got. And you've got the captain and the vice captain there. I can't see Bannon doing a full season. It'd probably be a bit part player. Because what is he now? He's 34 and he's 35, but he's already said he wants to end his career here. And Palmer, I think he'll feature in the side probably all season. He said he wants to play more than 40-odd games. He played probably the least number of games last season, but he was injured at the start of the season, wasn't he, with a groin injury, recovering. And, I mean, he's kicked off his training already. He did the Edinburgh Marathon last week, so he's already on it, isn't he? for
It's like
this
Forrest Gump,
season.
isn't it? Just every off season he goes on this massive run across like different territories and countries, isn't he? And then he just comes back fittest player in the side, doesn't he?
I again think he wants. We all talked about him going to the States, didn't we? I mean, his final payday, but I think he's here to stay. I think he'll end up probably on the coaching staff, and I think Bannon wants to do that as well. I believe he's been doing his B license, and I think they were just waiting for Danny to sign on the dotted line, and that was pretty much what they wanted, and the rest was. I believe that Bannon's is just a year, but I've not heard what Palmer's is.
But
Sorry, Ollie. I was going to say that. I was going to make a point of that because, excuse me, Rum Punchman's going to put. I think they would have quit if not for Danny. So that was going to be my question. Do you think the players are, because they are still staff and players outstanding to sign, were waiting on the news of Danny? Ollie?
Well, I don't know, because it'll be interesting to see how he deals with Palmer and Bannon, given how he dealt with Lee Gregory, which we're all assuming that Gregory, he said that Gregory was professional and were brilliant in training, and it's nothing to do with how he was at training. So we've all assumed that means it's because of his age. And those Palmer and Bannon must be the age that, or coming up to this season, the age that Gregory was. So it'll be interesting to see whether that affects how often or how involved they are. Would you sign for somebody who has already done that to somebody else that's that age? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, because
you're saying Danny's an ageist.
Yeah, blooming heck. That
Younger than me, so.
Is that the first negative thing anyone's come out in the last few months about Danny Rule?
They're different positions. There's different positions, though, isn't it? To what, he's a striker, isn't he, Greggs? And we've got a midfielder who can probably, in regards to Bannon, can probably actually just play a role in the centre of the park where he just pings the balls left, right, and centre. Look at Waddle towards the end of his career. There was very little running done. It was purely his left foot.
I was going to say, as somebody who is the wrong side of 35, I would rather not play midfield, if I'm honest, because I've gone past that point now.
Whoa, Holly, I was the wrong side of 17 and I couldn't play midfield. What I'm saying? I don't think the 35 thing. I think it's for me. I'm not being controversial. I'm not really saying this just because this is what I think. I think that when is the time to make the change of the old guard? So we've said Bannon, I think this is going to be his 10th season, and fair play to him, being at any club for 10 years. Palmer, obviously, all his career, apart from a little stint at Tranmere. Would this season be a good time to move players on? Obviously, with the new manager signing, the feel good, the very nearly obviously getting relegated. If we'd have got relegated, it probably would have been a totally different story. But I think that would it have been a good time? I know Bannon is the club captain, Palmer is the vice captain. They are stalwarts, and whenever they leave, if it is next season or in 24 months, it's going to be hard. So would it have been the best time to do it now? I would have said so, but it would have been a massive change, though. It would have been, obviously, Bannon still played 40 odd games last season. I know Palmer was a bit part player at the start because of his injury, but towards the end he played virtually every game. So what do you think? Would it have been a good time to make a change, Simon?
No, not at all. I think what he's got to do is he's got to build on what we had this season just gone, and you need too much change can then mean it's difficult to have any sort of influence on the side for the first few matches. We've seen this before where we've had wholesale changes through the entire team from Gary Monk era running into the last two seasons, really. You've got to have some amount of solidity in the side and some amount of what we've had before. And of the players, him, as in Bannon, Volks. I mean, we're still waiting on Volks. Volks isn't under contract. We're still waiting on Volksy to sign, and nothing's been said a great deal about that. And Palmer, I think, it's that spine of the team of what they've gone through the last few years. and then you can start building a new team around them. Probably with the fact is that they'll probably start off at the start and then slowly be phased off. But bear in mind, Palmer's only 32. Jesus, he's not exactly decrepit in regards to where he is in his playing career. 32 is probably where he's, at one of. I mean, he's just got better and better, and to pander to Steve, but he is a player that you'd probably have in your team sheet first time round every time, especially the run-in that we just had. He's 100%, and there's the sort of players we need. Changing it too much could make it an uphill task for Danny, and I think that's why he's gone with, it's not who, it's what and having some established players in the team to build new players around them.
Yeah, we've had a comment here from Wenlock Owl, says the squad team should be evolution rather than revolution. I like that. That's right. And on the same vein, Ed Thomas needs some succession planning. Hopefully we see more young lads follow Cads and step up to first team this season too.
I have to say, I agree with both of you. I do agree with you, Ash, to an extent that, and I am the most sentimental. So when players leave, I have a little cry into a pillow. And no matter who they are, even if they're rubbish, I just love them. Because they've played for us and I've seen them and we know them, and I get very sad. But I do agree with Simon as well. I mean, was it Chris Turner who got rid of loads of people at the same time, and then the replacements that we got after that were just like absolutely some of those players that we signed to replace. I mean, the three pigs that went to Sheffield United. And then played in the Premier League. Obviously, the replacements we got for them were just not even to 2 leagues below that. So that were just like... and there was a comment that said, get the replacements before we get rid of them. I would assume that they've been told that, like Si just said, to... so Ashley Green says we need to bring in the replacements now. A bit of mourning, but Palmer and Bannon will be slipped. That's basically the gist of what they said it better than me. Yeah, so I think, I would assume Danny's told them that they're going to get phased out this season. Again, like we saw what happened with Gregory. I can't imagine that he's going to change his mind on that just for these guys. But I do also think that changing everybody is not the way. So keeping a couple of key places, key positions, ease us into the season, because we really don't want to start how we start this time. We don't need to ease into it like that. That's not easing.
No, we've got rid of a few players. Obviously, we've all seen the retained list and shipped out what Danny out. Well, I assume it is what Danny said, with him obviously going out, still in contract, but he's had it extended, that he was looking at for next season. John, it's keeping Palmer and Bannon is on wages that probably Palmer, I can imagine he's not going to be on that deal, but the $100,000 a week that Bannon is reportedly always on is going to hurt the pockets a little bit. But we can't be. We'll get on to Chansiri and all, obviously his plans for next season, but it can't have been a monetary decision. It was purely football, surely, to keep them.
I think so. The guy who put the revolution comment out, that's exactly what I was thinking. And it popped up on screen. It kind of made me smile inside. So it's like how I was thinking along the same lines. I think we're not going to have a complete tear up and rebuild of a squad. It's going to be, smart additions here and there. And I think, until you bed those new players in and see what you've got, can you then be comfortable that you can start phasing the likes of Bannon and Palmer? I hate to say phasing them out because they are like really key players, aren't they? But Father Time catches up with everybody, doesn't it? And eventually they will be slipping down the pecking order. But I think until the new players come in and prove they are better than what you've got, I think it's a smart decision to bring them back for now and then see, because you never know in the transfer market what Danny Rule already got a list of targets, but how many of them realistically will they be able to bring in? It'll depend on the club's squad sizes. It'll depend on agents' fees and what percentage of the wages we're going to pay for loans and stuff like that. Even free transfers, you're still negotiating, aren't you? Like a Pervader is a free transfer at the moment. So until you get those players in, I think it's smart to hold on to what you've got for now. And then if you find that, you can slowly sort of change into the guard, so to speak, and then so be it. Yeah.
At the minute at the club, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Bannon is the only central midfielder. Hendricks left. Diaby's left. He was only on loan, wasn't he? Momo Diaby. Byers has been released. Volks is unsigned at the minute. So I think what White Rose Legends has said here is pretty spot on, to be honest. To be competitive next season, realistically, we probably need 6 quality midfielders on the books. Don't honestly see us signing 6 better than Bannon.
No, but we might sign 6 younger than Bannon, and you can't have a team of kids, can you? That's never worked.
That's never worked.
Going out with kids.
I think you still need those people to do more than the on the pitch stuff. But I would have thought that Danny's going to be looking at some young people.
He may do, but then again, he may start with like Bannon and maybe Palmer in the midfield, and first 10, 12 games they have Storming, and that's their positions, and it may just make him think a little bit. So I think, yeah, looking at the squad, you would say he's signed them. It's probably a good addition, a good thing. Simon, what's your final thoughts on it? Is it?
No, I think if you look at teams like you look at Real Madrid, who just won the Champions League, their midfield's based on youth and also experience. You've got the guy in the middle, the German player. His name escapes me.
Tony Kroos.
He's retiring. He's playing in the Euros, and that's him done. These are the sort of players that the young kids look up to, and you look at that mini documentary that Windass did. And it does seem to be that the changing room focuses around Windass, Palmer, and Bannon, and the young lads sort of look up to these guys because they've been there, they've seen it, they've done it. I mean, you look at the fact that they played at Wembley, they've done a 4-0 comeback, they've played in the Premier League, they've that's for you, John, by the way, not John, another John. These are the guys that you have as leaders, not just on the pitch, but in the changing room. Bullen did it, didn't they? And to me, it's a no-brainer. You have youth, and then you have experience, and that's what Danny needs to build his side around.
We've just when Lockout is just said who needs Tony Kroos, we've got Liam Palmer. Even though Tony Kroos is retiring, I'd probably still take him over Liam Palmer any day of the week anyway. So obviously, like I said, the news of Bannon and Palmer have re-signed. There are still some other contracts that are out. And if anyone has seen the podcast that Mr. Chris Powell did with Sam Allardyce and Natalie Pike, I don't know what the name of the podcast is, but it's been
Tippy Tappy Football.
No tippy tappy.
No tippy tappy football. That were it. Yeah.
Well, Sam Allardyce on it. Bloody hell, that's not wrong, is it? There.
No football. I should have called it.
Anti-football.
So he was on there, obviously discussing the first 10 minutes of that podcast was discussing his time at Sheffield Wednesday. I tell you what, I think I love Chris Powell even more. Just from that, the way that he spoke about the club, you guys. Not you three on the podcast. I'm talking about everyone listening and watching. The supporters, Sheffield Wednesday, the Hillsborough, everyone. That Hollie, what did you make to? I mean, it's great to see staff and players on podcasts. I mean, there's one here that we'd love to have them on, won't we? But
Yeah.
we'll stick with the old guard on the Owls alumni. We will. Hollie, what did you make to it?
So when Chris Powell were at Charlton, I wasn't a big fan, I'm not going to lie. And I think it was one of those where you see other fans absolutely love him and you just think, oh, well, we're not bothered about that. And they really loved him, didn't they? And now, obviously, we're seeing why. And I think our fans absolutely just took to him straight away. And he mentioned that on there, that we got under the club and the fans got under his skin really quickly as well, which is really nice to see. He made a couple of really interesting points about, like, firstly about that he's been promoted 6 times as a player and once as a manager, and then last season was his biggest achievement, which is really something. I think that just goes to show that when things are going good, it's easy, and he's realizes what Sheffield Wednesday is all about, and that is graft. But
Northern graft.
Yeah, that's it. Definitely not easy. But he also made a point about, I think he said that obviously Danny didn't know him, but somebody who knew him or whatever was who got in touch to do that job. So I would like to know, what was it about him that they saw that we needed at the club, or that Danny needed, and how that line of, like, how that thread came about, because I think that's really interesting that someone knew him and thought that he'd be right for us. And obviously he was. But I thought it was really, it were a really interesting insight, because he's usually a manager as well, and he's the assistant, and he really. Go on.
Sorry, Holly. I think when Danny came, he did say he wanted his backroom staff were going to be his own people, and then somebody of experience of the English Football League. And I mean, Chris Powell has got it in spades, hasn't he? The experience, like you said, Holly, he's been a player, he's been a manager as well, and also fresh from the England setup as well. So that whoever was, you're right, Holly, whoever was sat there and then thinking, I know this young German manager's just got this job at Sheffield Wednesday, and he's after some help. He's after someone. Chris, are you up to anything? You know, I'm going to put you in touch with somebody. Do you know that? And it would be much like player transfers and agents and all that sort of fascinate me. I'm sure that conversation, be a fly on the wall for that one, would be great. Just to find out, dig deeper into that.
Because Simon, he said that he didn't know how he'd get on with Danny and stuff. So it was completely separate out of the blue that he had some attributes and Danny had some attributes, and they hoped that it would work, which clearly it did. I mean, you could see his influence straight away. From our fan point of view, we could see it, and I don't think they got the results that they wanted straight away, did they? From October time, but
got one win in 6.
Us fans, we could see,
like Married at First Sight, isn't it? Married at First Sight, you know,
a bit more successful than that.
Yeah. Danny stood at the end of the aisle, and Chris is walking down, and they haven't met each other yet, and they'll get to the end and lock eyes, and that's it, isn't it? And what a beautiful friendship, beautiful marriage at the minute. Is
that your favourite show there, Ash?
There's an image I can't get out of my head now.
I've never watched it. I've never watched it in my life.
I am then.
But I do spend a lot of time on social media, so I have come across it. Simon, did you see the interview with Chris Powell?
Yeah, I did. What struck me, pretty much what Holly's just said, was he started off with saying that he'd had a health scare prior to joining Wednesday. And the phone call came out of the blue through somebody who knew somebody, and it saved him. And I don't know what the metaphor was in regards to, you know, whether he'd fallen out with life or whether he'd fallen out with football. But the guy had said that the position at Wednesday and what happened afterwards actually saved him, which I found quite profound. After going through quite a few losses in my life over the last 2 years, you need things like that in life just to sort of turn your own life and turn your own head round, and that was quite good, because if health scares are certainly with people sort of my age and around my age, when you get that phone call from the doctor and stuff like that, it's quite scary, because you suddenly realize that you aren't indestructible anymore, and that actually something could be around the corner that could end the good time you're having. However, we often think we're having a bad time. We're actually having a good time because we're still on the planet. And I think we can all relate to that from one thing or another. But yeah, to actually see that in a podcast with that a lot of people have watched, who a lot of people watch who aren't Wednesday fans, for him to say that about the club, and the club's had a profound effect on him, and the fans have had a profound effect on him, and the fact that the Blackburn game was referenced with 7,500 people going, and the pull-ups on the crossbar, which, to be honest, I'm with Hollie. I didn't really like Chris Powell until he came to Wednesday. I remember us playing Charlton and them just basically time wasting and then beating us. I think it's when they went up, and it was a god awful game. And then he came and did pull-ups on the crossbar, and I think every Wednesday fan hated him for that. And now every Wednesday fan absolutely adores him for it.
I forgive him.
Yeah, I do too. Absolutely. And I think he's the yin to Danny's yang. He's that Danny is this very analytical German. He sees it in ones and zeros. He's very binary, whereas Chris is very much an emotional guy. And I know we approached him in the past, didn't we, to come, and he said, "Oh, I'm not going up. I'm a Londoner. I'm not moving up to Sheffield." And somewhere along the line, his mind's changed, whether it be the health scare or whatever's happened in his life, and he's come up to us and he's fell in love with us. And I know we've been in love with Wednesday for years, haven't we? Since we were little. And
it's
when you see some, well, it's like abusive relationship sometimes, isn't it?
I was going to say that. That's what I was
say. But he's come in with what was seen as an impossible task, and he's been part of that impossible task to turn it around. And I love the bloke, and he seems to have, even though it's not official, the podcast seems to allude that he signed a contract. He seems to be already in his head that he's here next season, isn't it? So I think it's just a case of not if, but when.
Yeah, we've got to keep him, John, haven't we? I think he's described all the words that we've just gone on about for the last 5 minutes about how he's described Sheffield Wednesday and what it means to him as an assistant, as a coach. But it would be mad, like getting rid of some players. It'd be mad to try and let him go, even though his stock will be high as well. Not just the manager, his backroom staff as well. It'd be mad to let him go, wouldn't we, John?
Yeah, 100%. It just makes me smile. Us fans think alike, because I'm going to say the same. I didn't like Chris Powell when he was a Charlton manager. It really rubbed me up the wrong way when he did the chin ups on the crossbar. I thought, was this guy? I think he's a rocket. What's all that about? And then he's like, and then they said in the interview, he's like, "Yeah, we came, we got 3 points, we go home." I thought, you cocky son of a bitch, you know what I mean? But then you know, he's time's passed and he's come back full circle as part of the coaching staff, and I couldn't be more wrong about him. He's an absolute gent, isn't he? He's an absolute character and such a good role model for the players. Chris Powell came into football and worked his way up the hard way, didn't he? I think he got his England cap at about age 30 or 31 or something like that. So Chris Powell's took the long road to success, both as a player and then as a manager. We had some success with Charlton, and obviously they picked us to the title. And they won by about 7 or 8 points, didn't they, really? But it was a memorable season because of what happened with United, weren't it? But yeah, that Charlton side where, like Simon said, I remember they'd come up to Hillsborough. Johnny Jackson always seemed to do us, didn't he, with a free kick or something like that. Always Johnny Jackson, and then they'd park the bus for the rest of the game. And fair play, they knew how to get results. But it's just such an infectious personality, and I think it'd be foolish to let him go. He's worked well with Rule. You can see the relationship. Any of those YouTube videos you watch, Inside Game Day, where the Wednesday ones that we do, Chris Powell's always there, geeing up the players, geeing up the crowd. Always does his little heel flip, doesn't he, when he's coming off the pitch at the end when we've got a positive result. Joins in with the fans, joins in with the chant. And I think, to be honest, you've seen it with other players and managers when they've come to Hillsborough as an opposition manager or player, it's just a one-off. So they sometimes get the Hillsborough experience, but when they come and they're part of the fixtures and foundations of the club, bug. And I think Chris Powell's kind of like got the Wednesday bug. He's kind of fell in love with us a little bit, and it's amazing to see, really, isn't it?
Well, it were interesting. Like both he and Sam Allardyce both said that because he said he'd only signed till the end of the season, but that were for him So they were saying like he knows how good he is, but he needs us like to prove it or whatever. So he needs to make sure that it's right for him. When you're a younger manager, you want a long deal because you want the club to commit to you. But when you're an older manager, you're not really bothered about that. So it's more about if it's the right fit. So it was quite good that he said that. And obviously, even Sam Allardyce is the king of the short-term contract, to be fair. But then for them to then say, like, talk about it, like, actually, he does want to sign. We've convinced it for the first time ever. Sheffield Wednesday has actually sold itself to somebody successfully, and they want to stay. Obviously, based on if Danny signs, he did say, but yeah.
Yeah, it did sound like it was, like Simon said, it was going to be not if, but when. And I am sure we'll see an announcement of if it is just Chris or if it is all the backroom staff that have extended their contracts. I'm not sure, but I'm sure probably next Friday. Like I said, they like the contract announcements on a Friday, don't they? So that's it. Yeah. So that's it. So we've got obviously the captain, vice captain. Hopefully, one of the coaching staff is going to extend. There's other players that we're waiting on. Obviously, offered to Volks. Bernard is another one that I think that's going to be pretty critical for me. I'm a massive admirer of Dijon Bernard. He's playing in the Copa America, is it? That's starting soon for Jamaica. So hopefully he'll have an envelope with a signature on it on his kitchen table when he gets home. Hopefully that's it. Right. So we've seen in the report this week as well that the owner, Mr. Chansiri, is looking or possibility for outside investment in the club. Now, come on, that's great news, isn't it? Hey, who don't want Red Bull coming in and having a bit of money thrown at us? It's been said that he's looking for a partnership rather than selling. Simon, what's your thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on Mr. Chansiri looking at getting people to plough their money in so we can buy someone decent?
Didn't you think it was a strange sort of time in the announcement that he was looking for investors? It just sort of fell after Leeds had got an investment from Red Bull, and the sort of announcement from on Twitter was quite negative in regards to, was he wanting 60 million and he turned some people down. It was more span on the negative side rather than the positive side, which I thought was typical journalistic. Oh, let's go for the negative. We can't have anything good because we've just signed the manager and two players. Look, investment isn't the silver bullet as what I would suggest some people from West Yorkshire are thinking. With the current sort of profitability and not Holly, no, sorry. The profit and sustainability rules are really sort of quite strict now on what people can invest in a club, and it's not a case of this white knight or sort of silver and blue knight riding in on the back of an Austrian horse and spaffing loads of money at a club and buying loads of players and so on and so forth. You've got to do it in such a way that it doesn't actually affect the accounts. But in regards to Wednesday, I think we're in a sure enough now we're probably one of the most high-profile clubs that we've ever been since probably we're in the Premiership. If you look at the last 24 months, people know who Sheffield Wednesday are. A year ago, we did, what was it, the impossible, a 4-0 overturn in a playoff final. We went from 4-0 down to winning and going to Wembley and then winning 120 minutes plus 3. And we were on the, Pep Guardiola spoke about us. Jurgen Klopp spoke about us. Kevin De Bruyne wore a Wednesday shirt in the after party after they won the Champions League. Everybody suddenly realised.
Beastie was the poster boy for Al Jazeera as well.
Absolutely.
That might have been a deal that he did before that.
We suddenly became... we've been in the shadows for quite some time now, and all of a sudden everybody started to know about us. And then we've done it again. We've if ever there's a time, the podcast with Chris Powell showed it, that we were the club that we were going to be relegated. No club has ever overturned the deficit that we just overturned. Danny Rule's come in. And we've done something that no other club has ever done before. And everybody's talking about Sheffield Wednesday, about 7,500 people going to Blackburn, about Danny Rule, this guy that probably only people from Bayern Munich, Germany, and Southampton ever knew about. Now, apparently, every time a manager gets sacked, he's like number one favourite to go there. The ITV have taken him on, and he's going to be commenting on the Euros. So now is the time for Chancery to say, hey, we're Sheffield Wednesday. You knew who we are. Let's get some money stuck in. But the money's got to be better invested than what Chancery did, where he spaffed it on a nice pitch and a scoreboard, and then Jordan Rhodes and Alban Abdi. It's got to be in the infrastructure. It's got to be in the coaching staff. It's got to be in the academy. It's got to be improving what goes on behind the scenes, so we can actually see in a couple of years some improvement. We need money. Go on. Sorry. Well, I was going to say, it's not it's not the silver bullet. It's not going to. If we get investment, we're not suddenly going to start spending £9-10 million on players, because profit and sustainability rules don't allow us to do that. Leeds fans are deluded if they think they're all going to suddenly start signing players of millions and millions because Red Bull have come in, because the regulations and rules don't allow you to do it. And if anything, nowadays it's even more strict. Look at what's happening in the Premier League, Forest and Everton, and look at what's happened to Sheffield United. We've got to look at the thing that we need is somebody to come in who actually knows football. If they've got money, it's great. But following on from Charlie's rant last week, we need somebody to come in and actually say to Chancery, no, this is how you run a football club. This is how we do it, and let's have structure in place. Let's have a proper way of running it. I'm sure that's what Danny wants, and that's what all the fans want as well.
I'm sure that the owner won't want that, though, will he? He won't want someone coming in saying, here's 50 million or however much it is, then I want to have some sort of control or saying things. He'll probably just want the money, and you'll be a silent partner, and that's it. Because I don't think he's going to give up any sort of... he hasn't had a director of football. He hasn't had a proper COO, CEO, and all that to do the day-to-day running. He's not going to let anyone, just because they've got 50 million, come in and say, look, I'm going to start running it.
Well, that's the trouble. That's the exact trouble, because when he has put these people in place, like Katrien Mayer and stuff like that, they've lasted 5 minutes because they just cannot work with him. And now, but I alluded to last week, he's best when he's sat in the background, not actually saying anything. If somebody can come in with a 51% share rather than a 49% share, then we can look at somebody who can come in and actually run the club correctly. But you're right, it's that butting of heads against each other that we're really going to struggle with if we bring another investor on board.
John, would you rather he sold up 100%? If it's all or nothing type thing, which I think it's going to have to be. It's going to have to be somebody who's going to have to put up everything that the owners wants, rather than just say, here's 20 million to tide you over for 6 months or whatever, I don't know, as an investment. And I'm just going to sit here and drink my Madri and eat my pie at half time type of thing.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that you could get somebody to come in and work with Dejphon Chancery. I think he's clearly shown over the years that he hasn't necessarily learned from his mistakes. He doesn't necessarily understand football still after all this time, particularly when it comes to like valuations on players. Whenever we've had bids come in, I mean the 12 million Forestieri thing, that, I mean, you should have done that, and I know the fans wouldn't have liked it, but if you want to be a proper businessman, you sort of have to. You can't turn down opportunities like that. I just don't know that people would come in and work with him because of his reputation. I mean, if you've ever listened to TalkSport and you've listened to Simon Jordan, who used to run a football club, he'll tell you all the potential about Sheffield Wednesday. He's from somebody who took over Palace and did a good job with them, and he spoke about our potential. Simon mentioned it earlier as well about the actually managed to raise his profile without actually spending loads of money. We just because of the incredible feats that we've done in the last 2 seasons, from looking like blowing promotion to getting it, and then looking like nailed on to go down to then a miracle survival. But I think if I can't see anybody working with Chance here, if he's going to sell anything, I'd say it would be 100% sale. But I believe that he wants to keep the club going and hand it over to his son, who I think is just past one of his. I mean, I'm not going to speak too much about his son because obviously we know about things in the past where people have been out of order. But I do believe he wants to hand the club over to his son at some point, and so I don't think he'll sell. Hence but I might be open to investment suggestions.
It's going to take somebody though with a bit of money and a bit of probably patience. So I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, we'd love the money to come from somewhere to be able to just sign a couple of players and be not so scared of a statement, say that we need to pay, what was it, 200 quid extra for a tax bill or something like that, which hopefully at the start of the season we don't get anywhere near the amount of statements that we had from.
That's what I was just going to say, like, if I wanted someone to work as a partnership with me, I probably wouldn't just have loads of red flags all over and just be like the worst example. I feel like I'd probably lay low for a bit and be like, I promise it's going to be great, and then show those things after when they've agreed to it already. Don't do that straight away. I mean, John mentioned Simon Jordan, and I'm pretty sure Palace went into administration when he was there, so he can say what all this stuff about how to run a club, but I'm sure that happened. And the only thing I will say, in Chance Series' favour, and this is the only thing I will say, Simon, you mentioned spending all the money on Jordan Rhodes, but we put that off, and then all the fans went, well, why didn't we get Jordan Rhodes? Blah, blah, blah. And I feel like out of every decision he's ever made, and there's been so many that have been wrong, and that one was like the pinnacle wrong one, but I feel like that was the only one where he actually genuinely thought he was doing the best thing that the fans wanted. I think he just thought, this'll make everybody love me, this'll be the signing, and obviously it didn't work out, and you live and die by the sword. So yeah, it was bad, but
I think he's only ever done what he himself has thought is best for the club. I think when he signed, like you say, Rhodes, I think when he signed Alman Abdi, George Boyd, he was going by people who were advising him and saying, this is a rate player, this is a rate player. And we obviously, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but it's come to pass that maybe certain people who were advising at the time were doing it purely because they were getting a certain amount of money from these deals, and they were actually benefiting more than the club actually benefited.
Fans were on
in the
board
end.
with it.
Well, absolutely, we were.
Jordan Rhodes thing. It just was absolutely awful.
I was a massive Jordan Rhodes fan. I was. To me, it was like going back to early 90s when we were bringing, when we got like players to come in, like we got Waddle from Marseille, didn't we? And we'd already got Hurst. I thought the Jordan Rhodes signing would be the shot in the arm that we needed to get back to the Premier League, and obviously I was massively wrong on that.
I mean, Jordan Rhodes is one of the Championship's top scorers of all time.
Yeah,
and a lot of them have probably come against us. I'm not going to lie. But, and he has played that 4-all game. He was absolutely unbelievable. So our fans probably did really, even if he was on the fence about it, if you looked at social media, our fans wanted Jordan Rhodes so much. But it was such a short-term thinking signing that then, because of the financial implications of it, we had to keep extending his contract beyond, even though he was rubbish. And I think probably Borough fans would have told us he were rubbish, but we were just thinking this is one of the best signings.
Yeah,
you say hindsight's a wonderful thing. If you take away the fact of what we know now, like you say, John, when we signed him, it was like, well, this is just the final piece in the puzzle for us to get promotion to the Premier League. You know, and that and the signings he made that season, you felt, because he just basically threw shitloads of money at it. But what I was trying to allude to earlier on was that the money could have been better spent, and again, hindsight is a wonderful thing. Better spent elsewhere, which we've probably seen the fruition of now, you know, by improving the academy and probably moving from Middlewood Road to somewhere else in Sheffield. Some amount of money spent on the facilities at Hillsborough, which Hillsborough's not had any investment since 1996, other than a pitch and a scoreboard. You know, but instead we went down the road of which we did during the Premier League times, was just spent it on players and players' wages, which, you know, chasing that unicorn of which we never actually got anywhere near from and ended up in League One.
And I agree with the comment that said you can't, he spent the money, it wasn't us. And I do get that. But Matt said he can't turn and blame us fans because it went wrong. He spent the money. Nobody held a gun to his head. And I do agree with that. I think it might be better long term. I mean, you know, if you're skint, you're very frugal and you find the best deals because you haven't got the money to spend. And Coventry, for example, they have spent some money recently, but they've had to come from League Two and up and build a little bit at a time. And there's other teams. I'm sure Ipswich had to do that at some point, but they did spend bigger in League One, didn't they? But there's other teams that have had to build and build and build through little tiny bits instead of just spending a lot of money. So, yeah, we might not see a lot of money in one go, but you have, like, not having the money might be the best long-term benefit, being more frugal.
Yeah, I think you're right there, because we're going to see it this summer. Because I think that obviously EK Ugbo is going to be sold from Troyes because they got relegated to third division in France, so they're up against it, and obviously Sheffield Wednesday are going to be in for him, I imagine. But we don't want to get as money out and spend as much as we think or should do because of who it is. There will be a ceiling of what we're, but us as fans, we want EK. Well, I personally do. I thought he did a great job, and he's proved himself in a Danny Rule formation and where he plays that he can score goals. So it'd be silly not to try and get him back. But we don't want to get him back having to spend $5 million or
exactly.
whatever because then we get the Jordan Rhodes. Yes, I put it on Twitter. I think it was earlier today with somebody or yesterday, and it was like I was trying to say that we don't want to get in this situation with Rhodes, like we did, where we spunked a load of money, and then we still paying for Rhodes now. I probably or just paid it off, and do the same with EK Ugbo. Even though Ugbo, yes, scored us 7 goals last season, and we know he can score, but there's got to be a price set. And us fans, we're calling for Ugbo to be signed. Of course we are. Probably Pervader as well. But there has to be a limit because we just can't. We can't, as much as we'd love to, we can't spend that money.
No, it's like what Matt says. Yeah, fair enough. It's not us spending the money. But if we really want Ugbo and then we don't sign him, we're going to blame Chansiri because we haven't signed him. But if I were bidding on eBay and I've set myself a limit, I'm not going above this amount. Everyone knows the whole point of eBay is once you've started bidding, you just keep going because you've decided you want it. You've already pictured yourself wearing it. So we don't want to just keep bidding because we've decided that Ugbo's the only striker on earth. There'll be another striker that's as good as Ugbo. And we have to trust the process. And again, we don't trust Chansiri. But if in Danny we trust, like Smith says, we've got to trust that if we don't sign Ugbo, we're going to sign someone else. Whoever we don't sign, it's not about them. It's about who we are looking at.
We sent to do the same with Malik Wilkes, didn't we, the other season, that we got linked with him. God. And it went on forever and ever and ever. And
summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then more sent to set his heart on it. And I did we pay $750,000 for him in the end? And he's just been absolutely dreadful. I mean, I think there's rumor, isn't there? He's looking at, looking at offloading him and going somewhere else. And the comments to some of the tweets were quite sort of, let's get rid. But we did that. We did the same, didn't we? like Holly says, if it gets to the point where we're becoming a bidding war for Ugbo, there's a point where we've just got to step away, and I'm sure Danny will. There will be other players out there. He did a job, but there'll be other players out there that probably are as good, if not better, that we can get for far less money if Troy decide that they want to make it a bidding war.
Yeah, it's
Who's
the problem
going to sign
of
Wilkes?
don't know.
Dog and Duck FC.
Yeah,
It
You
was,
can't just tie
Liverpool.
him to a fence at a farmyard somewhere and drive off.
Leave him.
It's what I say, isn't it? Never fall in love with a lone player. They've come in and they've raised the profile. They've done well. They've put themselves in the shop window. But as Holly said, and as others have said, we can't go chasing these players and overpaying to get them back, and risk not fulfilling other targets and filling other holes in the squad. I mean, you've got to think that Danny's got some good contacts in the game, scout-wise, and obviously his previous connection. We know, I don't know, it might all be pie in the sky, but we know that his friend has just taken over at Barcelona, Hansi Flick. Could we get a young Barcelona player on loan at some stage? Perhaps, maybe not. But it's you've got to be smart with recruitment, because the reason where we still are where we are and why we're still not being able to spend money and have exciting signings like we all want, it comes back to that car last season too, doesn't it? Where we've chucked money at Rhodes, we chucked money at Abde. I mean, I remember Watford fans saying, if you think Forestieri was good, wait till you see Abde. And I'm like, who's been watching him?
I'm
Ray
still
Charles,
waiting.
what's going on here? Yeah. And we're waiting forever, weren't we? And we're like, the guy played one game and then you never saw him again. So I think in many ways we're still paying for that. So we're getting ourselves in this position where we have to be smart with recruitment now. And certainly one of the things we can't do is overpay for a player to come back when we've got other needs in the team as well. So like the guy in the comments said earlier, just trusting in Danny and the process, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, Alex has put here, hopefully what Chansiri might finally be learning from Danny is that all of his worst decisions were reactionary, but Danny plans, then works it through, which I think that's spot on. I think it is. We mentioned it earlier, Holly, didn't you, about the fans wanted him to sign a 20-season striker in Jordan Rhodes. We did, and it didn't work out. So there's some of the comments here. There is like, there's one here, a rum punch man. We can find a 1 in 4 championship striker for under 2 million. Have we got 2 million though? This is it. I mean, I know we've got rid of, or we've released some players that may have been on some higher wages, but if we're thinking about Ugbo coming back, Pervada coming back, we're still, and Dan the boss will agree with it, we still want to find a goalkeeper as well. So a loan for, even if Beadle comes back, he's not going to be cheap as well. Not buying, I mean on loan again, because he's a year older, he's got a year more experience in the Championship. I tell you, it's going to be LC. I think I don't even know what that means. Is the scouting good enough? We can find plenty of young players for cheap who can develop. Masaba and Gassama, 2 prime examples, and they weren't even Danny Rules, were they?
Well, on that podcast, Chris Powell and Sam Allardyce were talking about if you had to sign 8 or 10 players a year, it's hard to get them to gel. And Chris Powell said he signed 23 players for Charlton in that promotion season. So he knows how to do it. He knows how to find them. Oh, there you go.
Electric giblets. I'm intrigued for that one. I want to know what that's all about, that name. So we'll move on. So Chansiri's going to get the purse strings out. It's going to be a fun old summer, isn't it? So I don't know if any of you seen that are listening and watching that over the last couple of days, we've come from the mind of Holly is the 30-day June challenge. So if you've seen it on our social medias, please get involved. It's been fantastic. There's all different questions of the day. I think you started off with a cracker about the shirts, Holly.
Kit crimes, yeah. I've spotted 4 different kit crimes that people mentioned. Although I love this away kit. I don't know what anyone were talking about. This is the best one. I voted for the IKEA George Boyd kit, and then that grey promotion away kit that had the owl on it. Bad times.
That kit you've got on there, Holly, I remember that. I think we played away at Man City at Main Road, and I remember David Erskine and Mark Pembridge are right rollicking. He wanted him to square ball to him or something. He didn't. Pembridge tried shooting and missed. And I just remember him, like you're running back because it's a goal kick, and I just remember seeing Erskine and Pembridge are right rollicking, and I'm sure that's the kit that he got on when they were doing it. But
let me tell you, when I were a kid, there's literally no reason for it, but I hated Mark Pembridge, right? I had no reason to do it, but when someone's face just really gets on your nerves, and I couldn't stand him. And now in hindsight, I think what did that poor man do? But like when it really gets under your skin, that's like he's the one.
You're not a gingerist, are you?
Well, I am actually a secret ginger, so maybe it is one of them. Like, maybe I am.
I voted for the I work at IKEA on a Sunday kit, or the George Boyd kit, as I called it. It's a bit of a thing though, because the other image of that kit is obviously the knee slide for Atinuhu against Leeds in the snow. So a fantastic goal, fantastic celebration, a shite kit. And you want to remember kits for the good times, but I don't want to remember that one.
What I will say about this, if I ever get lost up a mountain, this is thick enough to keep me warm for a week. Don't wear it in summer.
Simon, which was your nomination?
It's got to be the IKEA kit, hasn't it? It's just who the flipping heck signed that one off. It was just hideous. And it reminds me of George Boyd, who was awful, also one of the worst players that ever played for Sheffield Wednesday in recent times. And
when he wore that kit, he looked like Conchita Wurst and working in IKEA or something. Didn't he?
I think the first game that season was away at Wigan. I think that was our first game that season, and we'd obviously just was it just after we'd lost against Huddersfield, or was it after we just lost against Hull? I can't remember now. And they came out and they were abject. And George Boyd had been sold as this guy who covers every blade of grass. He'd ran the most in the Premier League the season before. And he came out with his long hair. And then that kit came out as well. And we were abject. We were absolutely awful. And I just remember thinking, this is shit on so many levels, including the kit. It was just, I love it. Still makes me do that now.
Certain kits you associate with certain players. So like this one's Kevin Pressman, the Chupa Chups one. And like the Sanderson ones is like Carboni or Di Canio or whatever. But universally, the IKEA kit is George Boyd. Everybody's like, it's shit, and it's George Boyd and he's shit. Nobody else, just George Boyd.
Yeah. Matt said, Holly, it's a great idea. He looks forward to each one. Nuhu, definitely the cult hero one.
I went Nuhu for cult hero as well. There were a few Sibons as well, which I can get on board with, but I went Nuhu for cult hero. The other one was something to do with best live goal, and I changed my mind about 300 times on that, to be fair.
Yeah, today's, if you get onto it, they're still on our social medias. You can comment on all the ones from previous as well. That it's cult heroes. So a lot of shout outs for Big Dave, Waddle. I think there was some quite Emerson Tone as Sabon.
Yeah.
He's got some
Semedo,
Semedo did not come up as much as I thought he was going to on that.
But everybody sort of loved him. I think a lot of people jumped into the you either loved him or hated him. I mean, with Sabon, I used to stand and then sit on the cop when Sabon was playing, and oh my God, I was probably one of his worst critics. But what normally happened was I would slate him, and then he'd do nothing all game. He had that slovenly run about him, didn't he, where he just didn't look arsed at all. And then he'd pick the ball up and just basically hit it, and we'd score. Usually about 4 or 5 seconds after I'd been calling him every name under the sun, and pretty much everybody around us on the cop had heard me saying that. At which point they all turned around and went, nah.
I have
After
to
he
say,
just scored a worldie.
There's the time that we always talk about where Sibon was literally just skulking about, and then he just blammed one, and everyone on front row turned round to one guy that had been slagging him off, and now I know who that was, and it's you. I was Sibon's biggest fan ever. I absolutely loved him. I loved him.
He was a pantomime villain, wasn't he?
I think Electric Giblets, because I know it now. I think Semedo was a genuine legend, not cult hero. And that's a good point, actually.
I was going to say that's more that, isn't it? But there was Chef Kikuchi, I thought might have got a mention as well, because I thought he was a bit of a cult hero. Because remember that game when we weren't really, United came to Hillsborough. I'm going to, I'll be honest, they were much better than us, but he popped up and scored a winning goal. And set us off sent us all home delirious because we beat them. But what I loved about it is he then joined another club. I think it was Swansea. And Swansea went to Bramall Lane and he scored. And he swan dived right in front of all the supporters on the cup, in homage to Wednesday. And I thought, you get my vote as one of our cult heroes, Kucha.
It was Petter Rudy for me, which I think reminds me of the shirt to your left there, Holly, the yellow and blue and white shirt. Petter Rudy was much maligned, but I always thought he was a great player, just such a great player. But again, much Bambi on ice, my dad used to say. He looks like Bambi on ice.
He made Rule look like he'd a squat store, didn't he, with them legs, didn't he? Like knitting needles there.
He refused to sign my shirt. This is signed, but he didn't sign it, so he is on the shit list.
Get in the bin.
Get in the bin.
Get in the bin. Oh, well, like I said, everyone have a look on Twitter, Facebook, all that. We put them out every day in June, thanks to Holly. There's some cracking ones there to make you think, to make you argue. Drop a like and engage with that. It's free, so hey, we have a laugh with it. It's great. Thank you very much. Has anyone got any other business?
I've got a couple.
Oh,
Owls in the Park. Owls in the Park. We've not mentioned that. That's been announced, hasn't it? Is it 29th of June? Is Owls in the Park. So that'll be interesting. Hopefully we'll see the kit out before then. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I think there's only Holly who has a child that'll be young enough to go, and he supports Barnsley, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, my lad will probably want to go. He'll probably want to have a wander around, but he won't want to wander around with his dad. He'll be taking his girlfriend or his mates. I'll just be dropping him off. And then I just read today that Joey Pooty has been called up by Zimbabwe to play in the World Cup qualifiers in South Africa. So that's a good one. One of our lads from the youth side is getting an international call-up. So, and I think he's one for the future.
You know what's going to happen there? He's going to get a bloody broken leg and be out for 9 months, isn't it?
Oh, nothing like being positive.
We'll never see him again.
Never seen again and then released.
No, look, I think I remember him from last pre-season. He played a couple of games. He looked pretty handy. Was it York? I think he had a good.
He played York and Chesterfield, didn't he?
Yeah,
very quick.
But yeah, if he get more minutes and more minutes for Sheffield Wednesday, he didn't look out of place, so that'd be good. Sorry, Holly, what was you going to say?
Oh no, I was just going to say, did anyone see on social media that kid that was like 30 or however old he was, like a teenager, and he'd been to so many Man City games and he'd only seen 13 losses or something. It were a ridiculous stat. He'd been to loads and he's only seen 13 losses in his entire life. I think we'd seen about 13 losses by October. And I've had a lot of debates this week about obviously because where I live there's a lot of Leeds fans and they're all upset about what happened, which is hilarious. And I've been trying to console them by saying the Football League is so much better than if you were a Man City fan and you'd only seen 13 losses in your entire life. I just absolutely think that what we've got, not us, but anybody that supports a team that's a bit shit, what we've got is infinitely better than whatever that kid is watching every week. And he might not think it is. But I saw that on social media and I just thought, great, well done you. I mean that's 10 times over.
That kid's got to look forward to not having heart disease, not having high blood pressure, diabetes, mental health issues. or any of
But
the
things
above
can only
that we
get
all have.
worse. And that's a much worse song.
I did see it, and you're right. I think his dad posted at the wrong time, weren't it? Because obviously they went to Wembley and lost.
Yeah.
So I think it was something like 400 odd games. He'd been going since he was a little one. It was quite a lot of games. He'd only seen him lose 13 times. But hey, right, is that it? I've got one little thing. Everyone listening, watching, coming out in the probably tomorrow, if I get my act together, we're going to ask for a little bit of a favour from everybody, if possible. If you like what you hear, see, listen, interact with, would you do us a big favour? We're gonna put ourselves out there. We don't do this, but we're going to register to vote for the podcast awards. So every year they do some podcast awards that we did send it out last year, but unfortunately we didn't get chosen or go through to the next round. But we're going to put it out for a form for you to fill in. If you don't like it, you could put it that you don't like us. Do whatever. Just we'd love it if you can just fill it in and recommend us for a couple of awards. I know it sounds very shitty and a bit thing about trying to just nominate us. Look, yeah, exactly, Liam, exactly. There we are. Look at me. That's it. But we're coming around to the thoughts of we're trying to do a lot of good things around the club and community wise, and what a great thing it would be to do and just spread our word on what we want to do than be on a stage and collect an award and say it. And we really appreciate all the support from all you guys, us podcasters. Yeah, it's a good laugh for us, but also that we're trying to do something a little bit good, I think. So if you don't mind, you don't have to. It'd be good if you would. That'd be fantastic. Thank you very much. And that's enough for now begging. One more thing, actually. One more thing. Hit a like and subscribe on these videos. And like I said the other week, the algorithm thing is all the nerdy ones like Blair know all about that. So really appreciate listening. Thank you very much. We'll be back next week with another episode. See you all, guys.